Hi, I'm Kathy Baldwin with Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to my next guest, Scotty Moser. We are diving into a conversation that hits home for so many of us. It's what happens when the traits that we've been told are just personality quirks are actually the lasting effects of narcissistic parenting and control. Scotty is a transformational coach and attorney who helps professional women recover from the invisible wounds of their upbringing so they can reclaim their confidence, earn more, and actually enjoy their lives. In this episode, we talk about shrinking to survive, wearing the mask of perfectionism, breaking the family loyalty code, and what it really takes to stop hiding and own our own voice. If you've ever felt invisible, stuck, or that you need to earn your worth, you need to hear this one. Let's unlearn. I'm so excited to introduce you to my next guest, Scotty Moser. We are going to have the greatest conversation today because we have a tendency to think about disruptive personality traits as far as diagnosis, but we don't ever think about the effect that it has on us. So, Scotty, as you know, Unlearn the Crap is about the conditioned responses and automatic programming that go into our belief systems. It affects every aspect of us. So when we are dealing with different personality types, which I know you have, let me ask you, what crap did you need to unlearn so that you could level up?
How much time do you have? No. um, there is a lot, and I'll just go hit the high points. One of the major things I had to unlearn that was a huge effect of the narcissistic parenting that I endured as a kid. And now I'm a coach that helps people recover from narcissistic parenting, and mostly professional women, so that they can make more money and be more confident and actually enjoy their lives. So I found that what's been blocking me is what is also blocking most of my clients. And one of the biggest aspects of it, was this need to be invisible. I did not want to be seen. I did not want to be heard. And it was a coping mechanism. It was survival based that I had learned as a kid, because it was not safe in my environment to be big and carry a big energy. It was certainly not safe to speak my mind and have an opinion that was different from the parental opinion at that time. So I learned to shrink, to stay small, to not take up space physically, energetically, mentally, emotionally, all of those things. And it was so ingrained in me that most of the time I didn't even consciously realize that I was doing it. It was habit. And I'm also an attorney, and it was better then because I had the law and my credentials and my profession to hide behind. So it was still there, don't get me wrong, but it was better because I had that structure to give me value and worth. But when I started my own coaching business, that is when it really kicked in. Now it was my opinions and my ideas. And that emotional brick wall that I hit when the marketing people told me, you need to go on podcasts, and you need to do 3 social media posts a week, and you need to get vulnerable. I wanted to die inside. And not only that, but there was this part of me that said, you're not doing it. Nope, you are not doing it. And what that looks like on the outside is I found 1,000 reasons why I couldn't do it. I was too busy. I had small children. I wasn't an expert enough. That's what it looks like. Like, I just need to take another class. That's what I would tell my coaches and my husband and people, like, well, I'm not there yet, or I'm too busy. But really what was happening internally as I was hitting that need to survive by being invisible.
Yeah. There is so many notes that I just wrote down of things that I want to discuss further with you. So I hope I caught all of the amazing nuggets that you were sending out. Before we get deep into this conversation that I know is going to be intimate and vulnerable, Scotty, who are you and how have you leveled up and serving the world?
I am a transformational coach. I specialize in helping professional women clear the energetic and emotional and mental impacts of narcissistic parenting so that they can be more confident and make more money and actually enjoy their lives.
Love that. Okay, so I want to start with the conversation that we had before we came on air, which was a nugget of information that I had heard from a doctor, which was that we are all made up of the egg that could be found in our grandmother. That egg existed in the DNA of our grandmother, and that when our mother was born, she carried the egg that turned into us. And so we know from a chemical point of view that our hormones, our stress, our serotonin, dopamine, all of these things affect us in utero. And then we get born into a physical environment that we are exposed to. Let me ask you, what was your mother's upbringing like?
My mother's upbringing can best be described as the lost child. She was one of 5. They moved around a lot. My grandfather was an alcoholic. He had problems holding a job. She learned to be very codependent and shrink back, as we were talking about, shrink back and not make a big fuss, not being seen and heard was a big part of it to survive. And she was number 2, and her older sister was very capable and competent. So in my opinion, my mom learned to lean on her and let her be that person while my mother shrank back into the sidelines. And my grandmother, I believe, was very codependent and was caretaking her husband, this person that struggled with substance abuse. And so here we go. It's substance abuse, it's the child. And then my mother married it in a way. And my father didn't struggle with a substance, but he was definitely, in my opinion, a rageaholic. And he had very high narcissistic traits. And my mom, if you look up codependent in the dictionary, there's a picture of her, I bet. So that's the lineage, the energy that was passed down to me.
Yeah, so it all makes real sense that in that environment where nobody has good coping skills, nobody understands the ramifications, and it's all in pure survival, how you were raised in this environment. What was your upbringing environment like?
I grew up on a ranch in eastern Montana in the middle of nowhere. And my parents were very religious. The whole community was very religious, fundamentalist Christianity. It was very remote and isolated. And the adults around me had very rigid ideas about raising kids and following rules. Being ourselves and having a voice was not a thing. In fact, we were supposed to take in what they told us and mold ourselves into that to fit the expectation. And nobody thought another thing about it. Like, you were a good kid if that's what you were doing. And it helped me to survive my childhood. I survived. I coped by being perfect and trying harder. And that did serve me well. I hit the achievements, the grades, the sports, all of that stuff. Went through college, hit the grades, and did the things. And luckily, those things I was naturally good at. Same thing with law school. And then in my career, that being perfect and trying harder also served me until it didn't. And this is where I believe that the glass ceiling kicks in, because at some point you have to step into leadership. And if you're so focused on all of these minor details and doing them all yourself, because I was highly codependent, like I could not delegate, nobody was going to do it right or as good as I did. And that keeps you really, really stuck in a professional setting. You're so focused on the details that you don't have time or the vision to step into a leadership role. And being that perfectionist and trying harder is kind of a buzzkill. Nobody, at some point, leadership is about being this big, fun person that people want to follow, right?
Yeah.
And if you're perfect and micromanaging everyone, nobody likes that. That's not a good energy to carry. People are not drawn to that. So that was my personal glass ceiling that I believe I created and formed in childhood.
So as a child, a teenager, were you aware of the disempowering thoughts? Was there a negative consequence, or did that glass ceiling become your wake-up call?
I was not aware of it until much later in life. That was just normalcy to me. That was how things were. And, I was constantly criticized at home, constantly over everything, and very brutally, really. I don't know how vulnerable you want to get, but very unnice
As
things.
vulnerable as you're comfortable to do, yes, because your story is going to hit somebody.
Yeah. So my father would tell me consistently almost every day that I was worthless, that I was a worthless human being, that I couldn't do anything right. And on it went. That was just an example of one of his favorite tirades. Every time I wanted to go out or have fun with friends, I had to do chores, a specific yet unknown amount of chores to earn that right. It was a big ceremony where I had to ask for permission, and he got to be the big superior person granting me this permission to go out and do anything that was fun, because people with high narcissistic traits are very threatened by their children creating a life away from them. And they're also very threatened by their children having fun. And so all of these things were something that he felt like he had to control.
Wow. So you just brought something up personally for me that I was not aware of or didn't think about. My father was very controlling. I loved my father. He was not, well, he struggled with alcohol. So then he died an early death. But he used to have this plaque on the wall that said, because he called himself the nickname, the captain. So the plaque said, "To the crew, please be reasonable and do things my way. Signed, the captain." And so I would have to ask, we weren't allowed to turn on TV until after 7 o'clock. It didn't matter what we want. There was no Oprah, there was no General Hospital. Like we were, so I would have to sneak to be able to do those things. If we were to leave the table early, we would have to ask permission. May I please be excused? And I never thought about those two things until you just said what you said. I never realized that that was part of the control and the manipulation that narcissists do.
Yeah, it sure is. And it puts them in the superior position where they're granting permission. And so you're inferior. And so they really like that. They really feed off of that control aspect of it.
So I started fighting back when I was a teenager. And so I was labeled a bitch. For those teenage years. My father thought I was the biggest bitch because I had just had enough. I'm not good at being controlled. I'm a really bad employee.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? Did you ever fight back? Or did you stay in the good girl place?
I stayed in the good girl place until I went to college because there was just no room. Maybe I didn't have the kahunas or anything to fight back, but it just felt like I was going to get smashed like a bug. I didn't have that ability then. But when I went to college, it was complete rebellion, complete wild girl party scene, doing whatever I want, whenever I wanted. And of course, the norm to me, what felt really familiar was to be in a relationship where people rejected you, were dismissive, basically treated you like crap. And so I got in a whole 15-year string of those, that felt really familiar to me. And so that's kind of when I started unraveling, was in college and throughout all that. I always kept my grades up though. I always did my homework. I was always stepping through those types of things, but I was also really indulging my freedom per se, except I wasn't really free because I was still running all of those cycles that I had learned. They were just manifesting in different ways. Instead of being miserable in my bedroom at home, I was out miserable at the party with the red cup in my hand.
So on the surface, on face value, it looked like you still had all your crap together, but you were still carrying all that turmoil underneath. Am I correct?
Absolutely, that is correct. And I did that until into my 30s. I thought I would outgrow it. I thought I would outgrow this feeling inside of me. I think that we all kind of think once I get the job, once I get married, once I reach these benchmarks, then I'll be an adult and I'll be happy and things will feel good. And I was 34, and I had, on my second marriage, I'd done a bunch of internal work between my first and my second. So I was able to create a very healthy relationship my second time around. So I had that, and I had a 2-year-old, and I was pregnant with my next one, and I just had that feeling, and I thought, I'm not outgrowing it. What is wrong with me? And I wanted to eat, pray, love, one of my favorite books, my way out of this situation. I wanted to go to Italy. I wanted to escape, to do something dramatic and interesting, but in my life situation, that clearly wasn't going to happen. So I realized I needed to take my journey on the inside. And that's when I started taking the classes, the coaching classes, and I learned about the inner work, started doing the inner work, and really started transforming my life that way. And I didn't have the material. Well, I probably do have them. It would be just a very different book than Eat, Pray, Love. Let's put it that way.
What would it be titled?
Let's see. What would it be titled? Probably Exile, something like that. Exile, because I was exiled from my authentic self for so many years.
Oh, exiled from my authentic self. I love that. You know what? I'm writing that down. You know why? Because I'm going to label this episode that title, Exiled from My Authentic Self.
Perfect.
Okay. So not very often do I hear of somebody in such a societally high esteemed role as a doctor or a lawyer changing professions and going into coaching. Why did you make that transition?
Well, when I was 3 years into my business degree in undergrad, I realized I probably should have been a psychology major, but I didn't want to switch. I knew I was going to walk. I knew I
Oh,
was
so
going to.
you had your red flags and you ignored them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I had always been interested. I spent my 20s reading mainstream psychology books, self-help, all the things like that. And it was always calling to me. And then the universe kind of fired me from my job right around that time. The, the industry that I was in really went through a slow period and I didn't have a lot to do. I was faced with reinventing myself either way. I was going to have to reinvent myself as an attorney or as something completely different. And I decided to go. Well, I had the 2 little kids and eventually it became 3. And I thought it felt too overwhelming to do both. And I thought I'm just going to go into coaching now. But to be honest, it was really, really hard and it didn't work out for a really long time. And I have gone back. I still practice law a little bit to this day to keep the lights on through the tough periods and do that for a few clients that I like and keep the trains running on time.
Thank you for being so open and vulnerable, because we have been conditioned to only show the pretty, to only show the after. And not many people are as open and vulnerable that when we are switching, when we are changing course, it is not a close one door, open another. It's a process. And so I want to talk about you moving from law and being a lawyer to coaching. You were talking about the demons you had to face
Mm-hmm.
and the excuses that came up about still wanting to hide.
Mm-hmm.
And so that brings up the masks that we wear, because yeah, as a lawyer, you've got that identity title that says, I am ... a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a really powerful I am statement that can give you a sense of security and acceptance and a place in this world. But transitioning to such a vulnerable, open place as coaching and dealing with narcissism. You talked about earlier the excuses of, well, I don't know enough yet, or I need to take another course, or my family comes first, or I'm too busy. These are things that we hear all the time from our clients.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get through this?
I took some very good coaching programs. I'd always been interested in what I call the root of the root of the root of the problem. Because when you're in the shower with yourself or you're up at 3 a.m., looking at your bank balances, things like that, it gets a little bit harder to lie to yourself. I'm not saying we can't do it, because we still do, but it gets harder. And so I was asking myself, what is the root of the root of the root of this? And all of that stuff came up in that process. And I remember, because I've been at this for 8 years, okay? Like you said, it wasn't fast. I wasn't one of those coaches that I went from 0 to 6 figures in a month and now I'm making 7 figures a month. That hasn't been my story so far. And I remember in year 1 or year 2, and my husband he was always out trying to get me on things and help me promote. And I, like I said, I really didn't want to. And finally he was like, why aren't you doing this? And I admitted, I said, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm smart enough. I don't think I'm good enough. And he's standing there and he says, well, I'm no coach or psychologist or anything like that. I'm in construction, but I do know that if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. And I thought, he's right. It's not going to happen. And from that moment, it was crystal clear to me that I didn't believe it. that was out there, that was there. And that's when I honestly started doing the law again and being in a setting where I could have some confidence, where it was easier for me to hold my value, because you can't start a business when you're squashed flat like a bug from scarcity and lack. And so that gave me enough confidence, and I was still doing the clearing work. I created my coaching program. I did the work. All of those sessions are sessions that I have revisited 2 or 3 times, and it's been peeling off the layers. And another one of the big pieces of crap that I had to shed was loyalty to the family paradigm. A common
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, a common role in a narcissistic family is the hero. And the hero's job is to go out there and keep the secrets and make everybody look good. And you know who is good at that? Me. I made everybody look good. And when I went through my first divorce, I worked in a big law firm at the time. I really, really struggled with especially the family expectations, because that was not okay in the religious background that I'm from. And I remember my bosses would say to me, like, I can't believe, like, it can't be that. I would tell them in private what it was like for me. And they would say, I can't believe your parents are that bad. They have you. Like, how does that jive? Like, it doesn't make sense. And so that's a common, people don't believe you when you say hasn't been easy for me, because in certain ways you're making it look really easy. And that's the habit, is to make everybody look good. Like, look at all these things that I'm doing. Our family is great. Everything is great. You present this mask, as you called it, to the world, a big family mask. And then behind closed doors, it's just a different story. You know, the belittling, the criticism, the contempt, the disdain, the manipulation, all of that.
Wow. What you're saying is hitting so close to home for me, and I know it's hitting close to home for a lot of people. So there's a difference between a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder, but there are narcissistic traits that come into our lives when it's parenting, dating, whatever it is, even employer relationships. Let's talk about what some of those traits are. What do they look like?
Okay, entitlement, very, very entitled of your time, of your attention, of your thought process. They like you to think and agree with them. They don't like to be challenged. They don't like to be disagreed with. And the professionals, I'm a coach, I'm self-taught, the School of Hard Knocks, but the professionals say lack of empathy. And for me, that's a euphemism. What lack of empathy means to me is they don't care. They don't care about the impact that their actions have on you. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care if you're sad, if what they did makes you upset, if it inconveniences you. They do not care. And once you start really observing someone with that lens, instead of making excuses for them, which a lot of us were trained to do, make excuses for them. Is this person caring about me or not, through their actions? Because they will say that they care. And that's another thing that you'll notice in people with high narcissistic traits. Their words do not match their actions. They do not. 90% of the time, they do not. They also like to be in control of the conversations. They prefer when it's about them, about things that they're interested in. And in friendships and work relationships, it's a little more subtle. Their eyes will start going like this, or, they'll just drop out. They just won't listen. But in families, it's usually a lot more brutal. They cut you off. They just walk away. My father thought nothing about just walking away when I was in mid-sentence. Let's see, what else do we have? The gaslighting. Let's talk about that. If you ever have the gall or the nerve to bring something up, their bad behavior up, they will straight up, flat out deny that it happened. A lot of times you're not remembering it right. You're too sensitive. Your feelings are hurt. They will straight up deny it. And if that makes you feel like you're crazy, especially if it's not that big of an issue, or if you were raised in an environment where that happened a lot, you don't trust yourself and you don't stand your ground. And you're not really aware that you think that everyone is like you. You're not really aware that someone's just going to straight up lie to your face. So I think the gaslighting is a huge element of it.
Yeah, I thank you for that list. I don't know about everyone else who's listening, but my brain was starting to connect dots of things that I hadn't thought about in my past, my relationships, whatever. But I was thinking about something as you were first talking about entitlement and how we make these stories and we make everything normalized. Part of that has to be about our own self-identity, because if we don't normalize it, then how do we fit into this? How do we justify that this is happening to us? How do we find that place where that dichotomy or that cognitive dissonance of, this is my family loves me, we've got this picture perfect world, but yet I don't really matter and I don't feel like I matter. So instead we make the stories that this is all normal, it's all good, right? And
we gaslight ourselves.
Yeah. And now we're betraying ourselves
and abandoning ourselves. I'll just go along. I'll do this conversation where this person talks completely about himself. I'll do his hobbies or her hobbies. I'll set aside my plans. I'll focus on, and a lot of times they're really emotionally immature, and it's kind of like taking care of a toddler. It takes a lot of your time and energy. And that feels normal to us. And honestly, another piece of crap that I had to move through when I finally limited that contact with those types of people in my life, in a way, it was really unnerving, because then I had to focus on myself. I had to start asking the question, what do I want to do with my weekend? And if you have a person over here that's demanding all of your time, you never have to think about that. You never have to up-level your business, because you really legit don't have time or energy, because they're sucking it all away. And so and in a way, that's really convenient, right? For us, if we have all those blocks that I'm not good enough, nobody's going to want to hear what I have to say, they're going to make fun of me. And so it kind of is a symbiotic relationship, unhealthy, but in a way, we both unhealthy people serve each other.
Yeah, because we feed that loop and we normalize it all. I'm thinking about some of the other traits that you were talking about that dismissiveness and that not being able to stay present and walking away when someone is talking. A lot of times those traits are because the person doesn't have the emotional intelligence or the emotional training to know how to process what's happening in those moments. And so they disconnect, they disassociate, because they don't have the capacity to be in the same place as what you're talking about. And so we've got one wounded person with one wound, and it creates another wound for another person at the exact same time. And we're
right. But there's a few different fine lines, I think, in what you're saying. And one of them is it a consistent pattern over time? And if it is, then when you bring it up, what is their reaction? If their reaction is, genuine, authentic, and you have to tune back into your body, which a lot of us were trained away from doing, to really trust your body to tell you, oh, this person really didn't know. They are carrying all the same crap I am, and they deal with it by walking away. Your body will give you some clues, a truth meter about that. Are they authentic? Are they genuine? Are they committed to making real changes and listening to the impacts that their actions have on you? Because a person with high narcissistic traits, you're not going to get that reaction from them. You're going to get denial. You're going to get, well, probably the first few times you bring it up, you're going to get denial, gaslighting. They're going to reverse victim and offender. So they're going to make it your problem. You're too sensitive, blah, blah, blah. And then if you keep bringing it up, if it's an issue, they might switch tactics and say, yes, you're right. I'm going to stop doing that. Buy themselves some time. Then you have to watch their actions, because it's not going to match what they just told you they would do. And so you really decide if it's someone that doesn't have the emotional intelligence like you were describing, or if it really is a person with low empathy that doesn't care very much about you. And I think consistent behaviors over time, your body as your truth meter, will really help you with that. But it's really important to me because so many of my clients have made a lifestyle out of making excuses for the narcissistic abuser in their life. And we engage in magical thinking. If I just say it this way, that person will change. And that's really not going to happen. And it's going to continue to keep us stuck in that relationship where we're being drained.
Absolutely. I wanted to point that out because so many times we look for the reasons and the stories of why people are. But the truth remains. It's empowering or it's disempowering. So I want to come to triggers, which is we bring to us, I really believe this, we bring to us the wounds that we're ready to release. And a lot of times that comes in the way of the relationships that we attract. So when we're attracting these narcissistic personalities, it can either keep us stuck if we're not aware that this is our body saying, excuse me, there's a hurt here that needs to be fixed. You need to look at this. And so that relationship is coming to you for a mirror. Hello, we're here. Look at us, heal us. And we're so used to suppress, ignore, avoid, look the other way. This is all normal. Push it down, push it down. And so we're drawing to us the wounds that are ready to heal.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a really deep, foundational, uncomfortable truth, right? And what's so uncomfortable about it is we want our outside to change. We want to stop attracting all of these crappy relationships. For me, it wasn't so much after the first 15 years in my personal life as it was in my business. And I attracted partners and accountants and supporting people like that who were actually not supporting me at all and were messing everything up when I wasn't watching. And we want to attract something better, but that means feeling it, acknowledging it, getting to the core aspects of it, which is, in my opinion, that root thought that is driving all of this, and the root energy, which is the emotion and the past event. So it's getting to the thought, the emotion, and the past event where you started thinking this thought that's been driving this whole train for your whole life. And it's not comfortable. It's not particularly, it's simple, but not easy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I absolutely love the fact that you go to the root, because until we go to the root, we're just putting Band-Aid on Band-Aid on Band-Aid. And the scar is going to, or the scab, sorry, is just going to keep oozing, and we must get to it. And it's not meant to be easy and pain-free. There's a wound. There's a wound inside that needs to be heard and released. And healing hurts. Birthing a new identity hurts. Birthing anything hurts.
I agree with that. Amen.
And so if we can get away from the thought that, oh, I don't want to face it because it's going to hurt, that's where our liberation is. That's where our freedom is.
Right. And I tell my clients, it's hurting every day. Every minute of every day, it's hurting. You've just been numbing it and pushing it down. I'm not hurting you. I'm not bringing anything up that's not there. Because if it wasn't there, you wouldn't get that emotional reaction or that trigger. Your body wouldn't react. If someone says to you, the sky is purple, you think, no, it's not. No reaction. But if you brush up against something more fundamental and important, like, hey, why don't you speak at this team meeting on Saturday? That gets really close to all of those wounds, such as people aren't going to listen to me, people are going to mock me, people are going to judge me. And so then we start to shut down.
Yeah, because we're being asked to show up in a way that does not fit with how we feel about ourselves. And
Correct.
part of us knows, yes, that is me. Yes, I do have something to say. Yes, I do have something of value. But then the wound comes up. And if we can see that as an opportunity and information, here's some, because we go to a doctor looking for reasons why our body's not working properly. If we can look at our triggers, if we can look at our pains, our uncomfortable, our emotions, the things that we're trying to suppress, if we can look at it and go, here it is, let it go, let's heal it.
I agree. It's really hard though, because no one's really explained it like that to most of us. And also you're caught in the midst of that full body reaction. Your palms are sweaty, your heart is pounding, you want to crawl out of your skin, you're really uncomfortable. And it's an entirely new thing to do it how you just explained it.
Yeah, because the crap we were taught is that uncomfortable feeling means run and hide and go back to safety in the cave. It's part of our primal brain, but it's also part of the neural programming of our brain that says, uh-oh, you're stepping outside of our autopilot. Uh-oh, we don't have the rule book for this new place, this new identity. And it snaps us out of that autopilot and says, pay attention, mm-hmm. Come into the moment. I just remembered a story of somebody. I saw this guest on the Drew Barrymore show. And this person was an expert in floral arrangements or whatever. And so this celebrity person had said, tell me, what is the secret for keeping these flowers alive? I've heard aspirin, I've heard a penny, I've heard these things. And the flower expert said, the flower's not meant to survive and last forever. The flower is a moment in time that brings us into the awareness of right now so we can appreciate the beauty of now, because flowers bloom and they die off and a new flower blooms. And I'm getting goosebumps even remembering this. And I started to think, if we could look at life in a way that everything was information and it was bringing us into the moment. This hurts. What do I need? This is good. Let's celebrate. Here's my zone of genius. I can own this. This is where I need help and I can ask for help.
I love that. Flowers aren't meant to last forever. That's really profound.
Yeah, it's meant to bring us into the moment. And if what you were talking about with coming to our body is part of what Unlearn the Crap is about, because our bodies are talking to us. Mm-hmm. Our emotions are talking to us. Mm-hmm. The question is, are you listening? Are you hearing?
No, we're doing whatever it takes to not listen. Give me that glass of wine. Give me that jog in the park. Give me whatever. Give me Netflix.
Yeah, avoid, suppress, live comfortably numb, medicate. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of those things and it is those coping mechanisms are there to keep us safe. At one time, they did serve a purpose. It's just recognizing that they don't, what's really happening, and that they don't anymore. For me, it was a huge eye opener to really profoundly realize that not everyone was going to react to me like my father did. Not everyone. There was a piece of me inside that unconsciously expected in every single interaction that I was at 70% risk for getting treated with disdain or cut down or criticized. And so when you go into every single interaction with that, you're tight, you're tense, you don't want to interact, you hide in your office a lot. And it kept me safe for a big chunk of my life, but then it was really, really blocking me.
Yeah, and the issue with that, Scotty, is we cannot protect ourselves from the negative feelings we don't feel without cutting off our connection to our emotions, which means we don't feel joy, we don't feel love, we don't feel sexy, we don't feel passionate, we don't feel alive. So we're walking through walking through this world like the Walking Dead.
Robots, yeah, or zombies. You're right. I love that description of it. You're right.
Yeah. So when we have clients that are coming to us and they know there's something more that they are being called to. And that's exactly what this show is about. The show is about how do we remove the crap that's in our way? How do we unlearn that and level up? Because I believe with every ounce of my being that every single one of us has a unique gift, a unique purpose, a unique message. And when we are living under that crap, we are disconnected from who we are and what we give. And there's never been a more important time in our history, probably, I believe, in the last couple of thousand years, that this is how important it is that each and every one of us step into our zone of genius.
Yeah, I think that's our soul's calling. And if we envision it, if we desire it, then it's meant to be ours. We have those callings for those desires for a reason. And they're not all the same. If they weren't ours, they would be all the same. But each one is so unique to us. And so if we have those dreams, they were put there for a reason and not to punish us. For a long time, I felt that they were put there to punish us and that my lot in life was to keep laboring in defeat and futility and all of those types of things. But that is overhang that's left over from the narcissistic parent, right? And I think a big part of it is realizing that the creator, the divine, God, however we think about it, that the universe is not an iteration of our narcissistic parent, because our narcissistic parent didn't want us to have crap. Okay. And so it's a huge thing to set that aside and open up to life as maybe you want something more for me. Maybe there is something good out here that is coming to me. And maybe I deserve something better than a recreation of this cycle that I've been on for the entirety of my life.
Yeah. When I'm working with my clients, I find that the hardest thing for people to accept is that they deserve it and that they do belong and they do matter. Do you find that as well when you're working with people?
That they deserve it, that comes up as a core belief. I don't deserve it. And almost everyone holds that in their chest, in their heart chakra, as a core belief, I don't deserve it. And so the flip side of that is I do deserve the crap that I'm getting. I do deserve the debt and the rejection. When you think about it like that, that's really rough. I do deserve all of this turmoil. And that is, all of the turmoil is an outgrowth, mirror, a reflection of that core belief. I don't deserve better.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the way you phrase that, because I talk about universal laws and the law of polarity. And for you to take that law of polarity for I don't deserve to I do deserve, and you show it in that way, that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, because I always say, what is on the other side of that? So if you say, I don't deserve wealth, let's say, well, why is it, and where is that showing up? Is it showing up in your relationships? Is it showing up in wherever it's showing up? The opposite is where your gift is. The opposite. So if it's relationships, then you're meant to work with people.
Exactly.
If it's showing up in your work environment, or wherever it is, the opposite is where your gift is. That's why you have that gift of polarity, because we can only see something in relation to its opposite. And so
Yes.
you can't see your zone of genius if
Because
you're
it's so
only
easy for
living.
you.
Yeah. So if you're only living in your zone of genius and everything is bright and light, one of my previous worlds, I used to be an interior designer, and I would have people come to me and say, but I love sparkle. I love all of the bling. And I would say, but if everything is bling, then nothing's blinging. The bling only shows up when it's in contrast to rough, or into a different fabric, or a different color, or a different anything. We can't get that bling and that sparkle if we don't have the contrast.
That's I love that point. It's so true.
Yeah. So when we are working with our clients and we can help them see that the things that feel yucky, the things that feel painful, are the direct link to where it's going to feel good, where we belong, where we shine.
That's right. All in that deservingness. And a lot of times it's felt as emotional pressure right in here. It's a physical thing. Energy is a physical thing, and we carry it with us. And, through different processes, which I teach, which you teach, you can get that whole body release, and release both the emotional sensation, which we feel, our feelings, we're really feeling them, our feelings and the thought and all of those past events, because we were told, many of us, for our whole lives, that we didn't deserve it.
Yeah. And even if we weren't told it, we inferred it, and we created a story, and we believed it.
Right.
And it was never true. It was all crap.
Right. Which is the high drama, right? It makes life such a high drama. We're on the stage, as Shakespeare said. These are our obstacles, our villains to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's our dopamine fix. It's our serotonin. It's our stress. It's our central nervous. It's all of these things. Scotty, I have loved this conversation. You have shined so much. Sean shined. So much light on our behaviors that show us that it's okay that we're feeling this. It's information. And there's people like you and people like me who can help guide through this process and find their zone of genius and unlearn their crap so they can level up. Scotty, when people are listening to this and they feel called to you, how do they reach you?
My website is the best place, www.scottymoser.com. And I have a free gift Overcoming Narcissistic Parenting from Overwhelm to On Fire. And I focused in on overwhelm because that's the number one emotion I see my clients struggling with at first. And you can't help yourself if you're drowning in overwhelm. So we start there, and that's my free gift to you, to anyone that's watching. I encourage you to sign up. And I'm on Instagram under Scotty Moser Coaching and LinkedIn on Scotty Moser. Scotty Moser, yes. And that's where you can reach me. I would love to hear from anyone.
I want to thank you for doing your own work and shining and showing up, because your voice does need to be heard. And it has been a joy and an honor to have your voice here with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. If this hit home, don't just listen, level up. Subscribe to the show. Drop me a 5-star review, or share it with someone who's done playing small. Then head over to my website, kathybaldwin.me. That's where the real magic happens. You'll find my books, my podcast, and all the tools to help you reclaim your voice, rewrite your patterns, and level up into the version of you that you have been waiting for. Your soul isn't whispering anymore, it's roaring. And this is just the beginning.